Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington. And today I'm joined by one of my good longtime friends, Jen Leggers, who is an awesome hair and makeup stylist here in the greater Seattle area.
Thanks, Reed.
And I want to thank you so much for coming in today, for coming in on your day off. And also, I know you've been sick lately, and I was very nervously watching your social media to make sure that, because this is obviously the most important appointment you've had.
Absolutely. Of course it is.
So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and a little bit about what you do.
Great. Thanks, Reed. My name is Jen Leggers, like Reed said. I am a professional licensed hair and makeup artist. I have a salon in the Green Lake area, and then I freelance for weddings, events, commercials, you name it, I can do it. So hair and makeup. So I'm based in Seattle, but I travel internationally too. So.
Yeah, I saw you just came back from quite an excursion, right?
Yeah, went to Paris for a workshop and then Morocco for fun. So Paris was about a week of hair and makeup, like 12-hour days. So it was intense, but it was amazing as well. So very fortunate to have been there and done that. So it was awesome.
That's awesome. And I'm sure we can talk more about your travels. I always envy people that get to travel professionally. I travel for like wrestling, but I have to pay for it. I don't,
Right. Yeah.
If anyone wanted to, but, well, thank you so much for coming in. One thing that I wanted to talk kind of right off the bat, I mean, you've been doing hair and makeup a long time.
Yeah.
And so talk about kind of just kind of how you got into it and,
Sure.
and also kind of like the importance of having that experience. But I guess we can start at the beginning, like how did this begin? How did you?
So yeah, kind of a long story, but I'll shorten it and make it sweeter. I've been doing hair and makeup for 15 years, which makes me feel very old, but not really, guys. I'm originally from Missouri. And I opened my salon when I was 21 and owned the salon from 21 to about 28. And during that time, I had my daughter and I thought, I want to do something maybe a little different. So I wound up selling my salon and going back to college, finishing my degree. My degree is in fashion marketing, merchandising with a minor in event planning. So at that time, I had come to Seattle to intern for Nordstrom, and I really loved Seattle. I actually have never thought about traveling here until I got the opportunity, and they were like, "Oh, just come back and we'll give you a job." So I moved to Seattle, took my daughter. I knew zero people here. And so I worked for Nordstrom for a bit and then got recruited by another company because my goal was to become a buyer. And I got recruited from another company to be a buyer for women's accessories. So I did that for about 3 years. And during that time, I was doing hair we call it kitchen hair, for like friends. And every now and then events for, hair and makeup. But I just felt not myself, and I felt a little lost because I just did not jive well with the corporate world. But also at the same time, I thought, gosh, I've worked so hard to get this degree, and I uprooted myself and my 3-year-old at the time. So I just stuck in there. And then one day they laid 20 people off from our little office, and I was one of them. So I was basically forced to think of something different. And that was my opportunity. I'm like, well, I'm going to go back to doing hair and makeup and working at a salon. So long story short, yeah, here I am. So this is my 3rd year doing hair and makeup in Seattle professionally. Right. Yeah. So, but 15 years total.
Yeah. That's crazy. Talk about owning a salon at the age of 21. Yeah. I mean, that's, I think a lot of 21-year-olds nowadays are probably not as, I don't know if it's a millennial thing or it's not as motivated. I mean, that's fascinating.
I have always been having that entrepreneurial spirit, I guess you could say. When I was 12, I just ran all these like little side businesses, and my mom was like, "What are you doing?" But I'm like, "I'm making money." I was bringing in a lot of cash. So I was like, I should just continue doing this. But yeah, I never thought about owning my own salon at 21. It just kind of fell in my lap, and I said yes to it and put both feet in and jumped in, and it actually worked out well. So yeah, while my friends were partying and, living it up at the bars, I was working 12-hour days, but I also was making good money and enjoyed what I was doing. So yeah, it was kind of crazy that I think about that, It's like 21.
What was it like living in Missouri versus Seattle?
So I just got back from Missouri like 3 days ago, actually. So it was like fresh in my mind. It's very different as far as environment. We've got some rolling hills and some beautiful trees, and definitely 4 seasons. We have snow, but overall, I love Seattle, and I love the beauty that it has, and just discovering, new places. And that's another thing I love about doing weddings, because I get to travel on the weekends to these new places that I've never seen before, or maybe would have never visited, so it's definitely different. But I do really enjoy it. So the people are I had to kind of accustom to the Seattle freeze, is what everybody called it. And that's very true. The Midwest people are just very sweet and genuine, and would give you the shirt off their back. So it's getting there. I think it's getting better.
What was it like kind of coming to Seattle? Because I have heard of the Seattle Freeze, and people have come on and talked about how like the wedding community though is maybe a little bit more inviting and
Absolutely.
a little bit more welcoming. What did you find kind of getting your way into that now, and obviously like still growing your network here? I saw you at Meredith's event a couple months ago, still trying to kind of, obviously we're always trying to build our networks, but what did you find in coming to Seattle in that experience?
I found it very opening and very powerful. I do feel like the community here is, we always say community over competition, and I do feel like that's pretty on point. And people are always like willing to help. And I feel like it's also a relationship. I mean, you really have to put yourself out there, and but people are very sweet and very helpful. So I found out that going to the meetups was a good thing, just to show my face, get my name out there, just being new and knowing no one, and kind of rebuilding my brand, rebuilding my clients. It was a lot of work, but I definitely could have not done it without the community here. Absolutely.
Yeah. Was it hard as someone that, that had a lot of experience, but like you said, it was newer to Seattle in terms of like, being in that market? Like, was that hard to like brand that and kind of market that? Like, here I am with all this experience, but now trying to like get a foothold here?
Yeah, sometimes it was, because I'm thinking, I know how to do that, or I am just as good, but no one knows me. Like, I have like 3 people on my phone that have Seattle phone numbers. So that was a little difficult. But again, it's just, you have to put yourself out there and be willing to take those risks. That I am an extrovert, so sometimes it does come a little easier to me to say hi or send a message via Instagram or Facebook, whatever it may be. I've got some no's, but 80% of the time I got yeses. So just to meet up for coffee or happy hour, and it definitely goes a long way. So
when you were doing events back in Missouri, hair and makeup and things, what was the difference between doing that like in Missouri and then Seattle? Was there, I have to imagine pretty stark.
Yeah. Somebody asked me that the other day. I worked a lot in Chicago as well. So working for Maxim and Disney Channel, Playboy. So the makeup there is, for those things, you're doing a lot more than you normally would for a wedding. So, and also my girls there, they're very big into like hair and makeup. They do their hair every day. They put on a full face every day. So coming to the Pacific Northwest, it was I'm like, wow. I would put a dress on and people are like, oh, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, aren't we going out to dinner or happy hour or heels? And no one wears heels. So I had to tone it down. I definitely found that out, because a lot of my girls, they're just, they're professional women, and they're, excited about getting married, but they also want to look like themselves. And I value that wholeheartedly. I mean, it was definitely a huge change for me, like coming from someplace like the South, which it's not, but people would consider it the South. So changing everything, toning it down.
That's awesome.
No Kardashian makeup.
Dorothy is such like you, where it's wanting to dress up. Yeah, I'll say like, "Oh, are we just going to like happy hour?" Or
Right.
like, and like her trying to get me to gel my hair is like it's a daily struggle, and it's
Yep.
something that we actually negotiate into. If okay, well, I'll gel my hair today if I don't have to do something tomorrow, or if you'll do something.
Right.
Yeah, talk about doing, like you said, doing these like large scale events like in Chicago and here. I was perusing your site kind of before you came, and it is quite an extensive list of like, experiences and things. I mean, was that intimidating kind of entering that world, or are you kind of used to that now? Or
I'm always intimidated. It doesn't matter whether it's this lovely podcast. It doesn't matter if it's a wedding. I always get butterflies. And I used to be kind of mad at myself for having those feelings, but now I love it because it's still teaching me to be humble and always just to expect the unexpected and just to be prepared, So yeah, there's always times where I get a little more nervous than other events, but I just feel like it's good to feel that way. Yeah, teaches you to stay true to yourself.
makes you know you're alive.
Right, absolutely.
So when you were kind of entering the Seattle wedding market here, did you have any kind of expectations that you thought it would be harder or not, or kind of any major lessons you learned starting out here and kind of get back into that world after working at Nordstrom's and everything?
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't. I tried to do as much research as I could. I started following other Seattle makeup artists just to kind of get the feel. And everybody is their own entity. So I would see anything from Kardashian makeup to very light and airy makeup, which is more or less my brand. And I just fell in love with skin. And I didn't really have that love when I was in Missouri because I was so busy covering skin because people wanted so much makeup that I just took a different look on my brand and who I am and who is Jen and who are my brides. So yeah, I didn't honestly have any expectations until I started booking weddings, and my brides kind of made those expectations for me.
Yeah, I guess before we go any further, maybe you should kind of define more or less your makeup style and kind of how you approach, whether it's a wedding or however you approach it.
Right. Yeah, I think it depends on the job that I'm doing. I would say 80% of my brides are very, they want to look like themselves. They want to feel just like themselves, but more enhanced. And I love that because I want my girls to feel beautiful, but I definitely want, their makeup to show up for pictures, that, and videos. So, they want a little bit more, but they want to know that their fiance is going to notice them walking down the aisle. That's their biggest thing. And, I love my girls. Like, they are very inquisitive about makeup, and some of them know exactly what they want. Some of them are just like, Jen, just do whatever you want because I just love your brand. So my brand is more or less enhanced version of yourself. Be the best that you can. Just maybe add a little bit more cream blush or add that extra layer of mascara. So.
Yeah, I know that was huge for Dorothy. When it came to our wedding, of wanting to feel. Because, she's been to weddings and I've shot weddings where like, pre-makeup and post-makeup are both beautiful, but I'll look back at like the first two clips I have of the day and I'll be like, oh, wow, like that's the same person, it's always, it's good, but you'll be like, oh, okay, so it is. And I know that there was a big thing for Dorothy, like I said, making sure that she felt comfortable and that I would know who she was.
I was like, well, trying a red lip is maybe not the best, on your wedding day, probably not the best time to try a red lip, like rehearsal dinner, sure, but not your wedding day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you think for the most part, though, like Seattle brides kind of want just more of that enhanced look?
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely, yes, Pacific Northwest women are very like, let's just be natural, and which I love because I can do that very well, and I can keep you looking like yourself. So.
I've had other makeup artists on the podcast before, and talking about like kind of that whole like unlicensed versus licensed, and kind of like different people's expectations and like what costs are and stuff. I mean, what have you found kind of in the Seattle market in terms of like, if brides are looking for like I'll see a lot like, oh my gosh, my makeup person canceled. I was going to pay them $20, and of course they found something else. Or do you find that a lot? Are you in that world? Or are you kind of out just far outside of that now? Or where does that?
I mean, I feel like I'm a little bit out far that I am licensed, and that's another topic for discussion. But I value my education. I value any education, and I'm constantly learning new techniques. And again, I am not the world's best makeup artist. I am really good at what I do. I'm confident in my skill. I'm very confident in my job. But having that willingness and open heart to learn more, you have to have that. So I think education is super important. I regard it highly. I mean, this past year, I've been to Palm Springs, I've been to New York, Portland, all for learning new techniques for hair and makeup. So, when my brides book me, I want them to know, yes, you are paying this price, but you're paying somebody that keeps up on education. And not saying that the $20 makeup artists don't, but education is not cheap. So you have to value yourself just as much as your brides.
Yeah, talk about having the license and kind of the importance you feel of that.
I mean, I am an advocate for, I feel everyone should be licensed if you're touching someone's face, their hair, and going anywhere near those body parts, I feel like you should kind of know what to do. And not saying you can't do your research, but I went through about 1.5 years of school and learned proper skincare, proper hair care. What happens if someone has, God forbid, like a sore or a rash, how to kind of take care of that. So I feel being licensed is very, very important. So like I said, I feel there's some makeup artists here in Seattle that don't agree. And the state is actually cracking down on that as well, because it is illegal to do on-site hair and makeup if you're not licensed. The state has turned like a blind eye to it for quite a while. So it's again, topic up for discussion, whether that's true or not, but it is, you have to have a license to do that. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. And seeing that's something obviously that you follow and know a lot more. Talk about, I want to hear more about these excursions and these travel, training sessions and things. I mean, how did those come about, and talk about kind of the benefits of those and continuing to kind of grow who you are.
Right. We all, I feel like, as whether you're a photographer or a makeup artist, a videographer, we all have somebody that we kind of look up to. And, whether you follow them on Instagram or Facebook, I do that for a few people that I absolutely love their work. And I saw, okay, well, somebody's coming to New York. Well, I happened to have a wedding in Pittsburgh to do. So I just, extended my stay and took the class. And it was an all-day class. And she is a woman of color. And I think that being a makeup artist, you have to have the knowledge to help any lady, no matter what ethnicity they are, and to be knowledgeable and have those colors in your kit. So, going to her class really helped me a lot. And I feel very confident in doing any color, any shade, any shape. So that was an all day 8 to, oh my gosh, we were there from almost 12 hours, 8 to 8. And it's just, you do feel very overwhelmed when you leave, but you do feel very like, okay, I'm going to like dissect everything, and you feel very knowledgeable. So, and then, I took another class in Palm Springs, and that was a 2-day event. And well, it's Palm Springs. So definitely was not complaining that I had to be there. But again, it's very overwhelming. It's just like all this information overload. And, but then you go home and you read your notes, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to try this. And even if you just learn 1 or 2 things out of going to a class, it can really dramatically change not only your brand, but the experience that your brides have with you.
It's so funny. I just was thinking of a story I was going to share. Hopefully you enjoy it. Because I do agree, like going to these conferences, like I did the wedding MBA like two whatever's ago in Vegas. And it's like the same thing, you're there all day and you're like so excited. And I got home and like, I'm trying to like tell Dorothy everything. I'm like, oh my gosh. And, pages and notes and all this stuff. And then like, I'll go film like these conferences, which I assume is maybe a similar experience for somebody else. And so I just had one over at the Bellevue Club and it was, like companies that do like fuel reward points.
Oh yeah.
So like incentive programs. So like, we do a buy 4 tires, get 1 free, or we do the fuel points, or you buy the, the groceries, and it goes on. But it was like all these guys from like all over the country, like flown in, and I'm sitting there filming this, like bored to tears, like falling asleep, like off of the podium that on. And I'm like, I guess it's the same then if they're like super jazzed about it.
Yeah.
So, but it's definitely a lot better when it's your own, personal field.
Yep.
Do you wish there were some things that more of your brides kind of asked more? I always kind of say like pitfalls or whatever, but like things you wish people asked you more that or have advice for.
Sure. I think all going back to, this is probably going to bore you a little bit, but Dorothy would probably relate. Skincare. Skincare is a huge thing for me. And I feel that good makeup starts with good skincare. So a lot of women don't know, or they feel very overwhelmed. There's so many products out there. So they're walking into Sephora or Nordstrom and they're just like, oh, I don't even know where to start. So I'll have women sit in my chair for trials and we'll start talking. I'm like, well, what do you use for skincare? Oh, I use Dial soap. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Say that again. Use Dial soap. The same soap you're using to wash your dishes, you wash your hands, and now your face. So I love to educate people, and sometimes it's scary, just like that lovely lady. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you what you should be using, or just give you some advice on where to start. So yeah, I do wish people would be a little bit more conscious of like what they are putting on their skin, because I think people here in Seattle are very conscious of like what they're eating, and everything's organic. But I'm like, but you can't wash your face with Dial soap or like the lava soap or what no, you can't do that. Bless their hearts.
Yeah, Dorothy does have one of those like vibrating things.
Yeah, look at you.
I don't do anything. I use Irish Springs, but
Reed, your face is so beautiful.
But so, do you feel like there is a lot of education that just goes into like when someone books with you? Like, do you feel like you kind of go through this education? Talk about that.
That is a huge passion of mine as well, because I really want you to look as glamorous as you can on your wedding day, but I want to educate you on the right products to use, whether you're getting married or not getting married. And whether that's like your hair, well, maybe you should try these layers here, or maybe you should grow your bangs out. Or if you add in a few like blonde pieces around your face, that could change everything. So I feel like I give a lot of, advice as well as education to my brides, or anybody who books me, whether you're a bride or not. So that is one thing with me, that I just have a passion for helping women. And again, like, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Makeup is not scary. Hair is not scary. It can be, but I'm going to help you as much as I can.
Well, no, because I do think, and no matter what the event, it all starts with hair and makeup. And so I do think that like there's a lot of stress that's put on that. It's like the first thing you do, and it kind of like sets everything.
Yeah.
Talk about like the differences, if you prefer between like, maybe doing like a red carpet event or like a wedding or like, I don't, like something for like a TV or something. Is there certain aspects you like of more one or the other, or is it just helping the people? Or
first things first, I'm a Gemini, so I'm very, I love my signs. I'm just very eclectic, meaning I love this and I love that. So I don't really love one thing over the other. I feel if I continue, like I'm doing weddings and weddings and weddings, and then like, oh, a red carpet event. Oh, I love that red carpet event. So it's just kind of nice to change it up. And people often ask me, oh, well, are you going to quit doing hair and just completely do weddings? I'm like, absolutely not. I love to have a little bit of change in my life. So after the crazy wedding season is over, now my salon is building up for the holidays, and now I'm like super busy at my salon, and I love that. I love the change that the seasons bring. So
talk about running the salon here.
Yeah.
In Green Lake.
It's Green Lake. Yep.
So talk about kind of that experience.
I have been there for 3 years, and we're all our own entity there. We all rent, so you call it a booth rental. But I love doing cuts and colors. It's a huge, again, passion of mine. And I love to transition my brides into my hair clients because, again, I love to keep that relationship going with them and catch up with them. This past week I had 3 of my brides from 2018 that came in, and it's just like, oh my gosh, how's married life and how was your honeymoon? And I'm just a very personal person. I view all my brides as my friends, and I want them to feel very comfortable with me. So again, if I can see them after the wedding, it's just a bonus. So yeah, I love doing salon work too. And sometimes I think my brides forget that I do hair, where they're like, oh, we just thought you were, wedding and hair, just for the day. And I'm like, oh no, girl, I got you. Just come in and I'll give you a haircut. So yeah.
Well, but that it gives you a chance to kind of, like you said, maintain that relationship afterward. Because I do think that couple, whatever the kind of the vendor is, whether it's hair, makeup, or video, or your officiant, like it. It's important to us as it is you, on the wedding day and those emotions and kind of that whatever.
Yeah.
And so like, I do have like a challenge with that sometimes where like, it's like really intimate and like you kind of know them and then you're like, oh, I never like see this person.
Right. You just like invested all these feelings and emotions into their wedding day, which is a huge day. And then you're like, peace out, like, bye.
We had one this summer and I had met, it was during the reception and everyone's dancing. And then this guy came up and he goes, hey man, like, long story short, like we need a video for next month. And, are you still available? I know it's last minute. And we had actually had a rescheduling just because of some family issues. They had pushed back the wedding. And so I was open. And so I ended up booking him. And so the groom from that wedding, was at Andrew's wedding, and I had just like sent him the video like a couple days before, and like I had just spent like 2 weeks like staring at him, and like it was so weird to like see him in person again and be like, I mean, and like we had a good connection like day of, and it was a lot of time, but still it's like I have looked at you a lot more than you have looked at me in the last month, and so it's always kind of a weird to be on that other side. I don't know if we ever talked about when you gotten into your salon in 21, but what was it about having that salon and the hair and makeup that kind of got you into that besides just the entrepreneurial ship of kind of running businesses when you were young?
Gosh, I mean, I wasn't that girl that played with makeup when I was younger. I didn't really, do my friend's hair. I was a bit of a tomboy, and I had 2 younger brothers. All my neighbors around me were all boys. So we would constantly play like baseball and Ghost in the Graveyard. So it's like, I was just like, okay, here's Jen, just, the only girl. And my mom was not a woman that did a lot of things for herself. So people are like, where did you get this? I'm like, I think it's from my grandma, but that's about it. So I was going to college right after high school and a freshman in college. And so my friend was working at the Clinique counter at a store called Dillard's. I don't know if anybody knows or we have Nordstrom here. So Dillard's is definitely a Midwest thing. And South. So I was working at Dillard's, and I loved clients. I started making friends with people that would come and buy product. And again, at the time, Clinique was really good about education. I mean, they're of course want you to sell their product, but I would go to these classes and learn about skincare and learn about different products for your face, and whether that's makeup or not Dial soap. So the manager, she said, Jen, you are so good at this. You should really look into a career of doing like hair and makeup. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? No way. I'm going to end up like the lady off of Grease, like beauty school dropout. I'm like, that is just not my plan. And I'm like, I want to be a journalist and I want to go work for National Geographic and I travel the world. So that is opposite. And I just started feeling again kind of lost. And I would just go to these classes and I'm thinking, I'm wasting my money going to these classes that I'm not even loving and don't even know what I really want to do. So I thought, I'm just going to go check out this school, just go check it out, talk to somebody. Did that. And by the end of the day, I was like signing papers to start like in 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh my God, Mom, hi, I'm starting beauty school.
What was that reaction?
She actually was very supportive. Both my parents were, supportive. I think they could tell I wasn't happy at college, and all these ideas that I had for myself. I was going to move away from this small town in Missouri, and I was going to do my own thing. And then I was like, oh no, actually, I'm going to college in my hometown. So. But yeah, that brought me just a lot of amazing opportunities that I don't think I would have been able to experience if I was not in cosmetology school, and friends that I'm still great friends with. And that was like 16, 17 years ago. So that changed my life and just opened up a world that I never knew existed. And I think a passion that I didn't know existed.
Well, but I mean, that was also like the knowledge within your own drive too, to
Absolutely.
Like expand this. Because I mean, there's people that have,
beauty
similar,
school right.
or whatever, in any field. So talk about, and I want to get back to that, talk about the journalism. You wanted to be a journalist.
I did. I thought I was a really good writer. And it's another thing you probably don't. I was homeschooled from third grade until 12th grade. So, crazy that I was like, oh, people are like, oh, how were your teachers? I'm like, they were great. It was my mom, So are they like, who's your school? You're valedictorian. I was like, it was me. Right? I was president and vice president as well, all the things. I was homeschooled, and I just did a lot of, I love, like I said, National Geographic, and I just poured myself into that. I had the opportunity to travel to India when I was 17, and I did humanitarian work in India for 3 months. And so that kind of put the drive in me. I was like, I'm going to go save the world. How can I save the world and get paid at the same time? Oh, I should just write. That was my first love, was writing and traveling. So, yeah.
Do you still write at all?
I use social media. Lovely Instagram. I never am one to like air my dirty laundry, but I am one to be, if you follow me, I'm very genuine. I am very myself. I don't know. It's hard for me to be someone that I'm not, or just to be fake. So I use that as my, my platform, and I can just lay things that are in my heart out onto social media. So it is what it is sometimes. I feel like I should be this person, or I should conform to this person on Instagram or Facebook. And then I'm like, no, because at the end of the day, I want my people, whether that's my friends or my clients, to say, this is Jen. This is like, if I meet you at a coffee shop, then you will still feel like, oh, this is Instagram Jen. So
it's tough. It is. Because I see a lot of, with stuff with social media with people, and this is it's so hard or fake,
right?
And I do think that the people that are like the most genuine and have something to say, and also like represent themselves, honestly. It's like the same thing when I post stupid stuff, and like I'm doing whatever wrestling or whatever, but you want it to be do you feel like when you getting you're going to beauty school, and kind of like, did you feel like then you were kind of like escaping the small town when you got out, or was that like a drive to get out, or did you just feel like that was the next step?
Actually, I did, because initially, right out of cosmetology school, I started working at, there's a town about 45 minutes from us called Columbia. And actually, that's where I went to college. But that's, it's the college town. It's the University of Missouri's there. They've got, their football games, and they have this great journalism school. So I thought, well, if I'm there, then I'm still kind of sort of escaping my little like farm town, population 500. And I did. I worked there at the salon for about 7 months. And then the opportunity came to open the salon in my hometown that actually was a little bit outside of where I grew up, Taos, Missouri. And it was like, wow, I have gone even deeper into like the country than what I thought. But I had all my clients like still would come from Colombia, and they would still come from the Lake of the Ozarks, which is another like hour away. So people were still traveling. And I really was appreciative of that, and it made me feel good. I'm like, oh, I actually know what I'm doing. Like people value me as a stylist and they want their hair to look great. So yeah, they would drive, and I'm like, okay.
But were you scared then as you got kind of deeper and deeper in that you weren't going to be able to kind of get out?
No, I mean, yes and no. I at the time I was dating a guy who he was in engineering school, but he was from that small town. His dad was a turkey farmer, and he was one of 12. And so I thought, okay, well, this is my life now. I thought, oh, we're going to get married, and I'm going to live in Loose Creek, Missouri for the rest of my life. And then we broke up, and I thought, oh, I'm not. No, actually, like, let's like reel those dreams back in. Of what I had was, to travel and to live outside of not even Loose Creek, but just out of Missouri. So, another 4 years went by, 3 years, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell my salon, start at college, finish my degree, and then peace out. So.
Was that motivating, or was that scary or liberating to kind of make that, leap then? I mean, that is quite a leap at 28?
Yeah. Yep. Yes and no, but I've always been the person to kind of like leap and then think later about it and just like pray as I'm like jumping that there's solid ground to land on. Because I feel like the more I think about it, the more I either get scared and don't do it, or just think of all these excuses. So it's either I'm just going to do it and hopefully it'll work out, and knock on wood, it always has. And I feel like you can make it work. You know what I mean? It's just about your attitude and making sure that you have a drive and an attitude to continue your journey.
Where do you think that motivation comes from now to kind of continue that and to do all the kind of leaps that you have?
Gosh, I mean, what's this? A great question, Reed.
It's really hard.
I know it is. Well, I don't know. I think obviously I can say the cliche answers, would be my family, my daughter. But my motivation is a lot to travel. And I figure, well, I want to be the best makeup artist and the best, human being that I possibly can be. And hopefully people will hire me. I'll pay my bills and have some quote extra money left over to travel. I mean, that's a hard question. Yeah. No, I think obviously my family and the love and passion that I have to travel. So.
Yeah, talk about that, because I was going to hit that topic anyway. And even on your website, you have a lot of calls to travel in France and Paris and everything. Yeah. Talk about that love of, besides going to India, and doing that when you're a kid, how did that kind of continue to build?
Well, it's funny. India, people are like, oh, where'd you travel first? I'm like, my first flight was to Bombay, India. It was like a 17-hour flight, and I was in the middle seat of like 8. It was awful. But that kind of sparked that drive, that love, because I've always been fascinated with other cultures and other people and how their thought processes and how they go about their daily routine and what that looks like and what they eat. And so, yeah, definitely being in India kind of started that. And then I thought, well, okay, well, what can I do next? And so my next trip, I backpacked in Europe with a girlfriend of mine for like almost 3 weeks, lived in hostels. That was another experience. So anytime I travel, whether that's, internationally or to New York, I love it. I love seeing different people and, again, experiencing food and culture and just being open-minded too, because I don't think that you can travel well if you have a closed mind or just not open to new ideas, or, hey, guess what? We missed our flight, or the flight's delayed. So now it has a trickle effect of missing other things. You just have to go with the flow. So, that being said, I mean, I think sometimes that transitions into my business because I'm such a laid back person. I definitely have structure with, day of the wedding, but I'm just very like, okay, that's great. We'll just, we'll do grandma now instead of, Aunt Susie that was supposed to go, or, just making sure that I want to create a stress-free environment for day of weddings because it's already stressful. And I think that translates into my traveling. So
I was that had to have been insane to be a girl from the small town in Missouri going to India.
Right.
How old were you?
I was 16, almost 17.
I mean, that had to have been like crazy. I mean, it'd be crazy for me now to go to India.
And
just kind of
and also let's throw in that I was homeschooled. So I am all of a sudden into this group of 28 kids, and they were from everywhere: Alaska, Mexico, California. I mean, everywhere. And then now you are with them 24 hours a day, living in tents and like bathing in a bucket, washing your clothes next to them. And all of a sudden you're just like, oh, okay, this is how real life is. And it's funny, people are like, you are homeschooled? Well, what? You're actually like normal. You actually can hold a conversation. I'm like, yes, that happens with us. So
I was going to say you're very well adjusted.
Yeah.
Does that drive your, like you said, you're an extrovert and like your desire to like see and talk to everybody and do all these things is because of
like being like cooped up, maybe, so to speak. Maybe so. I feel also, I sound like a total nerd, but I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. And so I found like freedom, I guess you could use that word, in books and reading. And so I read everything I could read about India. I was fascinated with a certain missionary there. Her name was Amy Carmichael. And so I read everything about her and Mother Teresa. And I traveled there before I traveled there. So when I got there, of course, it's, completely different than it is in books, but you feel a sense of knowing, and you feel a sense of like belonging. And so when you see people, I'm like, okay, let's chat. Let's talk it out. So yeah, I do feel like being cooped up, and then all of a sudden I'm like out. And I'm like, let's rampage. Let's rampage with conversation. So yeah.
That's awesome. Talk to me a little bit about kind of like your home life and your daughter and kind of how everything goes there.
Yeah. She just turned 13. 35 actually, right? Sometimes I feel like she's my mom. She's like, Mom, did you do this or this? I'm like, oh gosh, no, but thank you for reminding me. So yeah, she's a wonderful child. I mean, she really is. She's such a good girl. She's such a great student. So she's just brought so much joy and again, like motivation. And she is such a chameleon. She adapts very easily to her surroundings. I was a single parent before I got married. And so I would take her to my college classes with me, and she would just sit there and color, and she was just fine. She wouldn't throw temper tantrums. So she's just adjusted to my crazy schedule and crazy life now. And, then we have a 3-year-old black lab. His name is Griffey. And yes, you can imagine, my husband named him, and my husband loves baseball. So go Ken Griffey Jr. He is a spaz, as a black lab can be. That's 3. And yeah, he hears, literally, I will go into the kitchen and I open the refrigerator, and he's automatically like by my side. I'm like, dude, I'm just opening your refrigerator. Like, I'm not even opening like a cheese package. Like, how can you hear this? Yeah, he loves the food. And then my husband, Sean, and I, we've been married this July for 5 years. And so we met here in Seattle, and great man. I mean, he has definitely just taken to the role of being Avery's dad. And it just, I couldn't have asked for a better match. So yeah.
What was your guys' wedding like?
Oh my gosh. I was at like, I'm going to do everything myself, because I just didn't want to pay a lot of money. Like this is like, I just want to spend a lot of money because, we didn't have a lot of money at the time. And I just thought, well, I want a good honeymoon. Like, I want to travel. I don't want to get married and spend all my money on getting married. So we got married in Port Townsend, and my thought process was I want it to be anthropology meets the Pacific Northwest forest. And so, and I did. We got married like in the trees, and the water was right there. It was a beautiful venue, and it was very budget friendly. And I also learned, this is how Meredith Ruth and I became like really good friends. I almost called her McKee, but at the time she was. So I did her hair and we just became friends. And then she's like, well, what if we trade? And so she did my photos and I did her hair and cut and color for like a year. And it was amazing. I was like, okay, this is awesome, because I knew I wanted really good photos. So everything else was great. I did a lot of like Goodwilling and to find all my decor that I wanted, and everything turned out just how I envisioned it. Like Anthropologie is meeting the forest. So
that's awesome, because I knew you knew Meredith. I didn't know that she did your wedding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Meredith is that's great. That's so funny. Another quick, speaking of looking forward to the honeymoon, we had a wedding this summer with, it was Emily and Charlie. I had done all my correspondence with Emily prior to the wedding, about like times and dates and all that stuff. And so we get to the wedding and Charlie had gotten there first. It was up at Hidden Meadows and Emily was going to get ready offsite and then put her dress on. And so we're waiting and Charlie's there and I go, hey man, I said, are you excited for today? It's nice to meet you. Like, he's like, I was like, are you excited? He's like, F no. And he didn't say F.
No, right.
And he goes, but tomorrow we're going to be in Bali.
Aww.
And Emily said that if I plan the honeymoon, then she'll do everything else and we'll be good. And so I said, awesome, man. And he was a true sport for someone that did not want to be there at all. Less probably than any groom I had this summer.
He told his true feelings.
Yeah, wanted to be there the least. Is there anything you wish that people knew more about you or your company or how you work or anything?
Gosh, I think just going back to like, oh, hey, I have a salon, like I do hair and like a full-time like stylist. So not just like hair and makeup for special occasions, meaning like updos and things like that. But yeah, like I said, I am very genuine on social media and I always love meeting new people, whether that's, over a cup of coffee or over a good margarita. I'm always down to like do some more networking. And I think it's just important in our industry to, be friends with everybody, being kind and, whether that's, so-called competition or not, I just want to be a very kind and genuine person. And if I can help you, then awesome. If you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So
as someone that, within the last few years has really kind of reestablished, a brand here in the business, would you have any advice for like other vendors of any type or lessons you've learned kind of in the recent memory?
Put yourself out there. To be honest with, again, creating relationships is no different than having a relationship with a partner. You really have to kind of sometimes make that first move and don't be scared to do it because you'll be surprised of the outcome or the answers that you get back. So really just strive and hustle, right? Because, this industry, it's word of mouth and I do very small advertising. So my brides are, whether that's social media, but 90% of them is word of mouth. So just be true to yourself, be kind, and put yourself out there.
Last question. Where do you see, where's your kind of plan for growth now in the next year or two? Where do you really see kind of trying to make, and that could be either kind of personal growth with the business or kind of more large scale?
Well, I'm starting to do makeup classes. In January will be my first class. And I was nervous about even starting it because I thought, well, gosh, what if nobody wants to come? What I have all this education and have all these ideas, but what if no one wants to come? Well, it booked in 24 hours. So I thought, okay, well, that's a good sign. So we're going to see how it goes. And I'm very excited and I have all these great ideas. And I really want to help. Again, it goes back to educating women and men, but I would say 90% women that might be a little overwhelmed with hair or makeup or skincare, and really just get them to feeling their best and putting their best face forward. But yeah, so classes are going to be a big thing. And then blogging is going to be a big thing too. I'm very excited because again, I have all these ideas, but just the process of like starting it and then going through it. And my blogging is going to be a little different. I'm not going to just do like hair and makeup. I have really what I think are really cool ideas. So yeah, I'm excited.
So the beauty school student is now becoming the teacher.
That's right.
And it's all going to come full circle.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been so fascinating. I've so enjoyed kind of getting to hear your story and have you come in. If people want to learn more about you and your hair and makeup and styling and salon and all that, what would you have them do?
Of course, I'm on Instagram at Jen Lagers, Lagers. And then my website is currently theouteredge.co. I'm in the process of rebranding that. And I'm on Facebook. So yeah, those are 3 different ways to get a hold of me.
Or just Google like Jen Lagers hair.
Right.
I think it's what I Googled even just to kind of peruse the site this morning. So it all pops up on there. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reed. It was been great.
Oh, awesome. Good. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.
Bye.